Bust the rhymes up in the place, true indeed. Bust the rhymes up in the place. Who can flow with me? Just to let you know.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, the infamous Mr. T.Y., and you're listening to the Project Recap Podcast.
What you gonna do, brother?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, like I said it in the intro, it's Mr. T.Y. We are here, episode 4, Magic City. Got a lot on hand for today, quite a few topics throughout the quick recap and a little bit longer episode, or at least I'm anticipating with the topics that we've got on the main stage, including Milwaukee Bucks, the Miami Heat, all-star predictions, and some of my favorite games throughout the past week. So let's go ahead, get right into it again. This is episode 4. We are here. Did want to, before we get into this quick recap, go ahead and speak on the obvious change, or I shouldn't say necessarily change. Well, depends. But of course, we didn't release this episode yesterday on Monday like we have been doing so all season. So the plan going forward is to release every Tuesday instead of Mondays. It's a lot easier for me as far as my schedule goes. And then it also allows me to take Monday to catch up on anything that I've missed as far as games throughout the past week, recent performances by individual players, things like that. Just gives me that extra day just to go back through things instead of coming right out of my 5-day stretch of working. Boom, Monday, first day off, I get right into recording the podcast, and I have to, I just want to give myself more time in between that time, like working and then doing the podcast. So I feel like that just helps my schedule out, and I feel like will improve the quality of each podcast. So that's my hope. That's my plan going forward. Every Tuesday, still everywhere that we've been releasing: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and then anywhere else that the podcast is available. I'm sure it's on different platforms, I think, from what I saw. But anyway, so yes, again, Project Recap no longer coming every Monday. We'll be on every Tuesday, as we announced on Twitter at the Recap Project. Definitely follow us there for all of your latest Project Recap news. Now let's go ahead and get into this quick recap. Got quite a few things in the quick recap. First up, Andre Drummond and the Cleveland Cavaliers may agree to a buyout. I think I spoke about this last week during episode 3. But this is according to Jason Lloyd, and a few teams may be interested. If so, Milwaukee, Miami, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Los Angeles Lakers are teams that will be interested, supposedly, if Andre Drummond is bought out. Of course, they can get him for much cheaper versus trading for him. So I think all of those teams could definitely benefit, but more specifically, Miami, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn. Miami could definitely benefit in that because they could play Bam at the 4 and play Andre at the 5 and run Bam like a point 4. They're already a pretty good team as far as defending in the paint, getting rebounds, things like that. But I think that would just make them even better and make them an even tougher team to go against when fully healthy. So I think they could benefit greatly. And that might also kind of help with their depth. I heard if they were to get somebody like Andre Drummond, they could trade Kelly Olynyk for more depth on their bench. So I think it could definitely help them out. Milwaukee, I think first and foremost that it will improve their depth because you can move Brook Lopez to the bench and play him off the bench, which will improve the bench's defense. I think that's a big problem for their bench. It's not their ability to score, it's their ability to defend, and we'll talk more about that when we get to that topic with the Bucks later on. But same thing for Brooklyn. Like I said a few weeks ago, I think 2 episodes ago, as far as Brooklyn's problem to me, and still is, even though they've been pretty hot lately, I think rebounding and defense still is kind of a problem for them as far as offensive boards, as far as depth at that 5 position on the bench. They really, again, just still have DeAndre Drummond. They have picked up a few players recently, Iman Shumpert, Andre Roberson, but that does not address your center problem on the bench. So I think having Andre Drummond, you could either play DeAndre starting or Andre starting. I think they give you kind of the same thing. Andre just might be better in terms of boards. I don't know. To me, they kind of both give the same thing. I don't know. But I still think that would just improve their team as far as their bench depth, their bench's defense, and their bench's rebounding. I think that is the most important thing. So all three of those teams could benefit. I just don't want the Lakers getting nobody, and that's just me being a biased Boston fan. I don't think they need anybody else. They've got LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They need to do what they can with what they got. Y'all won a title with what you got, do it again. Even though, as far as the Lakers, I do want to say something about the Lakers, especially just watching them play against the Wizards. We'll talk a little bit more about this too, but Wesley Matthews hasn't been doing shit. I'm just going to leave it at that. But up next in a quick recap, LeBron James also passed 35,000 points against the Brooklyn Nets when they played last week. And I did find a crazy stat. I can't remember. I think it was on IG. I wish I would have liked it or bookmarked it so I could tell you guys whose IG it was, so you guys could go follow and check it out. But I found a stat. If LeBron continues to average at least 25 points, he could break Kareem's record, which is 38,000 points, 387. Or I said that kind of off, but 38,387 points. If he continues to average 25 points, he could break that record by the 2022-2023 season, which I think LeBron will probably play beyond that. Just seeing how he's aged and how he hasn't declined. Like him and Tom Brady, them old motherfuckers don't decline. I don't know what it is. But up next, the Suns defeated the Blazers last night by over 30 points. I think it was 32 to be exact. That was the Blazers' first time losing by 30 all season, sixth time by 20 or more. Damian went down, I think, in the second quarter with, I think it was like a hip injury or something. He continued to play through the game, but he only played 28 minutes, 0 minutes during the fourth, even though I understand why he didn't play in the fourth. They were down like 26 going into the fourth, so why would you play Dame? He might be hurt, or, you don't want that, whatever happened to him in the second quarter, to turn into something else by playing him for no reason in the fourth when the game was kind of set in stone. You were going to take that L. But that was the fifth time all season that he's played less than 30 minutes, and they're 2-3 when he plays less than 30 minutes. So, if Dame for whatever reason goes down with an injury, man, sheesh, pray for the Blazers. Mark Cuban denies that the Mavs have been looking to trade Kristaps Porzingis. I read this morning that they've been shopping around. Like, that's been kind of making rounds on a lot of different blogs or social media accounts or anything like that. As far as sports accounts, a lot of people have been reporting that they've been shopping Kristaps. Supposedly that's not the case with Mark Cuban. I heard he even got pissed when he heard that this was the case. So I don't know if that's just a front or if it really is the case, like he really hasn't been trying to trade him and this is bullshit. Something else that I heard this morning is that supposedly NBA GMs are mad at Danny Ainge for trying to trade Kemba Walker at the start of the season. Like, he was aggressively trying to trade him. I'm like, I don't believe this for a few reasons. One, that's literally a big part of Danny Ainge's job, is to make his team better. Two, teams knew, based on if these teams watched the bubble, they knew that Kemba was hurt. Already knew that. So I just don't believe that, a lot of GMs are mad that he tried to trade him. Like, I don't believe that. Just miss me with that. He needs to get traded. That's how I've been feeling the past week. And before we even move into this next topic, as far as the Celtics, I'm not even spending much time talking about those bozos today. They don't get a separate. They don't get a section in today's podcast. I'm pissed with them. Even though they went 2-2 in the last week, I feel like they should have went 0-4, seeing how they almost blew it against Atlanta. And Jokic gave us hell. Those two games should have been L's for us, but I'm not even going to talk about them today. They don't deserve that time. Up next, the Houston Rockets did waive DeMarcus Cousins after attempting to trade him. Of course, they couldn't find any trade. His numbers are down drastically. Can't play a lick of defense. He can't. I'm sure I could give him 20 a game. Pause. I could give him 20 a game. I don't even know if that was a pause, but still, I could give him 20 a game. Okay. Maybe I'm wilding. Maybe I'm wilding by saying 20. Might be wilding. I'd say more like 25, but that's just me. The Miami Heat may be interested. I heard there's some mutual interest between DeMarcus and Miami. I don't know if they should do that. I don't know. I'm skeptical about that because, again, they're a really good defensive team, especially in the paint. Their biggest, as far as their defense, I think that the only thing they can't defend is the 3-ball. But as far as defense in the paint, that's something they're very good at, and that's something DeMarcus Cousins isn't good at. So, and he isn't that good as far as scoring either. Like, his percentages, his numbers are down. Like, I don't know if they should do that. But also had heard when the rumors first went around that he was getting waived, the Lakers might be interested. According to a few beat writers from the LA Times, that is not the case. There is no interest from the Lakers. I cannot blame them. They should not be interested. That's another. I'm sorry. DeMarcus is just not going to give teams what they think he is as far as scoring or defense. He's just not going to do that. Up next in the quick recap, Naomi Osaka defeated Serena Williams and advanced to the Australian Open final, which she ended up winning her 4th against Jennifer Brady. That was a 20th straight win for Osaka when she defeated Serena, and I'm assuming, of course, 21st when she defeated Jennifer Brady in the Australian Open title or final match. And that was also her 4th Grand Slam title. Now, before Osaka defeated Serena, that was their 5th matchup, and now Naomi is 3-2 versus Serena. So congrats to Naomi. Judas and the Black Messiah has released on HBO Max, and if you haven't watched it, I'm not going to spoil it, but I do recommend it. I think I'm going to give it another watch today or tomorrow. I'm off for the next few days, so I probably will give it another watch. And I got a few other things on my list, like Greenland. My homeboy French put me on, catching back up on Snowfall, and I got a few other things on my list. But yes, definitely go check that out. It is on HBO Max. If you haven't already seen it, highly recommend it. Think it's very fitting to come out this month. Seeing what it's about, definitely go check that out. Also, sticking with HBO Max, they are releasing the live action Tom and Jerry film this coming Friday, February 26th. I don't know how much of you care about that, but me, I grew up on Tom and Jerry as a kid, so I gotta give this a chance. I gotta see what it's hitting on. I think this is the first ever live action Tom and Jerry film. So I gotta see it. I gotta see it. From the commercials, it looked like it's gonna be okay. I don't have like high expectations or high hopes for it, but it'll definitely be worth a watch. Bobby Shmurda was released from prison today. That's all we bumped it today between them and Daft Punk. That's all I've been listening to. Again, Bobby Shmurda has been released as of Tuesday. I saw a few clips of him, one getting off a jet with Quavo. 2, he doing his thing. We're just gonna leave it at that. My nigga Bobby Shmurda free. You know what I'm saying? Up next as well, Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion relief package has been passed by the House, which includes the $1,400 stimulus checks. Hold your horses. If you think that means we're getting the checks, hold your motherfucking horses, because it does not mean that. It has to pass Congress next, which it could. I don't really know. I didn't really read into like the chances. Like, I just saw that, boom, we've passed the House. Let's get it past Congress and let's get these checks. That's all I was interested in. But also read that Democrats hope to have this bill passed by the 14th of March, which is the expiration of unemployment insurance benefits. So hopefully we hear more about this over the coming weeks. March 14th is like in 2 or 3 weeks. It's March season, baby. That's the best month of the year. But moving right along, Epic Games is releasing a brand new browser-based software tool called MetaHuman Creator, and I think is with the Unreal Engine. But it's called MetaHuman Creator, and I think if y'all are interested in like video games or like visual effects and film and TV and things like that, y'all need to go check out a clip, like a little trailer of this thing. Like, shit is about to get crazy as far as like how video games look, how CGI looks in movies and shows. Like, it's about to get crazy. Like, I wish I knew about that shit, like how to use this shit and make shit, because this shit looks cool. You can legit make almost a real human being using this shit. I wonder if this is ever gonna turn into you printing these niggas out and they real people. I don't know. That's the first thing I thought of, like niggas just making real people, but I don't know. Up next, and the last thing on today's quick recap, Spotify will be releasing a new service called Hi-Fi. It is going to be $20 a month. I don't know when this releases, but the whole thing about this is that it will be offering music with CD quality sound and a lossless compression standard. Those are not my words. You can tell by the words that we use, those are not my words. That is coming straight from some article I read, but yeah. I'm not paying for it. I'm probably not going to have it. I don't need my music to sound that good. I just need to hear it. It just need to sound good. And that's enough for me. It's bad enough I'm paying $10 a month. I really miss paying $5 a month when I was a student. That's part of the only reason, like I want to go back to school to get those benefits back, like Hulu $5, Spotify $5, Apple Music $5, all that shit, refund checks, all that shit. I miss all of that. But yes, those are our topics in today's quick recap. If y'all have any comments about anything that we just discussed, definitely let me know. Social media, YouTube, you know the deal. Moving right along, we're going to go ahead and get into our main topics. We're going to get into the main event of the evening. First up, we're going to talk about the Miami Heat. Now, with each podcast, what I do is I make a Word document. I write out everything that I'm going to talk about, like with a lot of stuff in it. Like this is probably the longest one that I've written so far. It's about like 6 pages for today's episode. But with a lot of the stuff that I found was prior to the game that they had against LA, and then they also played Sacramento, I think. And when actually on the 3-game winning streak, actually how should I put this? So the stats that I found were prior to the 3-game winning streak that they're currently on, which I think started against the Lakers on Saturday. So keep that in mind, and I'll be sure to repeat that before I break down a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about with the Heat, because my opinion is kind of slightly shifted in some of these things, but I still think they need quite a bit of things readjusted on their team as far as their point guard position, figuring out this whole situation with the finding a new 4 or 5 things like that we're about to talk about. So again, they're on the current third. I can't even get my words out. Currently on the 3-game winning streak. They beat the Kings, the Heat, or I said the Heat beat the Heat. They beat the Kings, the Lakers, and I can't remember the third team. But prior to that, they were 11-17. Prior to the 3-game winning streak, they were 11-17, 11th in the East, and now they're 14-17, 10th in the East. I think a big part of their issue prior to all of this is the fact that they didn't have Jimmy. That's when they really fell apart. You already lost Goran. He's hurt. That's obviously your starting point guard, a dominant ball handler, or dominant on ball, I should say. So when they lost Jimmy, they went 2-8, and that's only, of course, counting that 10-game stretch that he didn't play in January. And then since his return, they've been 8-5. They struggled a bit, kind of when he came back to get him back in rotation, but ever since the past few games, they've really been clicking, and they got a big win against the Lakers. One possession game could have gone either way, but you still got to give them credit for how they played, especially on defense. But some of the things that I didn't like prior to this 3-game winning streak, they hadn't beat a team above .500 all season. The Lakers was the first team they beat above .500, and it just happens to be the Lakers, the team they played in the finals. I thought that was pretty weird how that worked out. They've had several losing streaks throughout the season, lost 3 straight twice, and also had a 5-game losing streak. And during that 5-game losing streak, they lost to the Nets twice, the Raptors, the Nuggets, and the Clippers. And 4 of those losses were against .500 teams. Just to add on to that, they struggle against good teams up until this Lakers game. Oh, the third team they beat, it just came to me just randomly. The third team they beat was last night, OKC. I thought they might have ended up losing that game because when I was watching through the first half when it was happening yesterday, Dort was really giving Jimmy hell on defense. He gives everybody hell, and they were down. So I thought with what I was seeing, I didn't think it would change, but of course Miami pulled that game out. But before the 3-game losing streak, they blew a big game versus Golden State, and the Golden State team that didn't have James Wiseman or Draymond Green. So that's a game to me that they should have, for one, been going down low quite often, and they led as much as about 19 points in that game and ended up losing. They also lost to the Clippers that didn't have 4 starters: PG, Kawhi, Pat Beverly, and Nicholas Batum. So 2 bad losses in my opinion. And this is with Jimmy, if I'm not mistaken. Like I mentioned earlier, as far as what I've seen from them, as far as on defense, again, they're a very good defensive team as far as guarding the paint, fast breaks, guarding the mid-range jumper, things like that. But guarding the 3-ball, that's something they have struggled with and continue to struggle with. Before this 3-game losing streak, they were 29th in the league in opponents' three-pointers made each game. Now they're only 28th after this 3-game losing streak. And I'll repeat this again. Before that 3-game winning streak, they gave up 18 threes versus Golden State, 15 threes against the Clippers, 12 against Utah, 15 against Sacramento, 15 against Houston. And I even think during this 3-game winning streak, they've given up at least 14. They gave up like 13 against the Lakers. I think it may have been 14 against OKC and 15 against Sacramento, but still been giving up a lot of threes even when they do win. They were also one, but okay, again, I'll keep repeating this just so y'all understand. Like a lot of these stats are found before the streak. So before the streak, they were one of the worst fourth quarter teams. They were 28th in fourth quarter points allowed before the streak. And just in 3 games, they went up to number 7. So do what you will with that stat. I don't know how they jump like that, but of course, I think, well, from what I've seen in the last 3 games, they definitely have stepped up their defense. So that plays a big part in that. They struggled on the road prior to the 3-game winning streak. They were 5-10 on the road, and now they're 8-10. As all 3 of the games they recently won were all on the road in Sacramento, in OKC, and in LA. So, you know, they're definitely going to turn it around. I think that's what I believe as far as what I've seen, and especially if they make some moves to improve their team, I think they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Losing Jimmy the way they did as far as the COVID, and then losing Goran and Myers Leonard has caused them to really, their rotation is definitely taking a hit. And then again, losing Goran without a real legitimate backup point guard, that's tough for them. So Jimmy is really like the point guard on that team, and then you got Bam who runs the point forward. So I think once they improve that point guard position and figure out this whole center situation, I think they'll be fine. The things I do like from the team, again, they're a very tough team defensively. They force teams into a lot of tough shots. They're 4th in the league in field goal percentage. They're 1st in points in the paint allowed, and they get out in transition. Even so, I think they're like top 10 in the league as far as fast break points allowed. I think last time I checked, they may have been like 7th. I can't remember. I didn't get that stat, but I think they were 7th before the 3-game winning streak. They could be higher now with 3 wins under their belt. I need to go back and check. But something else that I really like as far as all season, but more specifically during this recent stretch, is Kendrick Nunn. He's been consistent all year. He's averaged 14 points and 47% from the field and 35% from the 3. But during this 3-game stretch, he's averaged 21 points on 50% from the field and 52% from the 3. So he's just been good for them all year long. Tyler Hero has looked pretty good. I thought they figured out Duncan Robinson, but he's really been showing that he can do more than just hit threes off a dribble handoff or off a curler, anything like that. He's been looking for more shots in the mid-range, being more of a facilitator. He's been looking better than throughout the first half of the season. But again, I think a big part of their problem is their point guard position and this whole, figuring out what to do at the center. If they do get DeMarcus Cousins, I don't think that's going to help them. Andre Drummond, like I mentioned earlier, would be a great addition for this team. I think another player that I heard that the Heat are interested in adding is Nemanja Bjelica. Somebody that could definitely help them at the 4 if you play Bam at the 5. He's a very good forward for Sacramento, I think, and he even showed that when they just played them, like he came out and gave them 21 and was looking pretty good. So he would be a great addition to that team. And then I've also heard that they're interested in going for John Collins in the offseason, and I'm big on John Collins. So if they get John Collins, man, that team is gonna be tough. Again, if they really upgrade that point guard position, say if they get somebody like Terry Rozier, oh my goodness, that would be a scary team. If they had Terry, you had someone like Andre Drummond or John Collins, Miami would be a very good team. I just don't know if they plan on doing anything as far as adding new players this season, or if they plan to wait until the offseason. We'll wait and see. The trade deadline is at the end of March, so they still got time to work something out. But let me know what y'all think about Miami. From what y'all have seen, I think they can still turn it around despite the struggles they've had all year, despite the lack of rotation in certain positions. I think once they address that point guard position, the center position, and really start to gel again like they did during the bubble, they can they can definitely get back to where they need to be, and that's being one of the better teams in the East. There's, again, outside of the top 8, so just give them more time. I think they'll be fine. I don't think the magic is run out for them. Just give them time. They'll be back. Up next, we're going to go right ahead and talk about the Milwaukee Bucks and their recent struggles and how I feel about them and what I think is holding them back from being a real threat in the East, especially seeing how teams like Brooklyn and Philly are playing. Don't know. So currently they're 18-13 in the East, or 18-13 third in the East. 5 straight losses prior to the home wins versus OKC and Sacramento. OKC and Sacramento began without wins. They've had losses in that 5-game stretch versus the Jazz, the Suns, and twice against Toronto. Both games were versus Toronto at home. Drew Holiday hasn't played since the 6th of February. He's been out due to health and safety protocol. I keep fucking up today. Like, what is going on? He's been out due to health and safety protocols, or in other words, due to COVID. He hasn't played during the losing streak, of course, or that 5-game losing streak. Bucks were 15-8 prior to him going down, however you want to put that. And they've gone 3-5 without him. Prior to, with these stats that I found, these I wrote up again prior to the weekend. They were 1-5 before their 2 wins against OKC and Sacramento. They were 1-5 without Drew, but now they're 3-5 with those 2 wins. And he could be returning soon, as he was on the team's bench for the Sunday win over Sacramento. So he could be coming back. I definitely hope he does. Obviously, when they lost him, they just fell apart. I think a big part of that is because their bench had to really step up as far as defense. With Drew going down, he's obviously a very, very good 2-way player. I still think one of the best guards as far as defensive guards in the league. Him and Marcus Smart are definitely the top 2 guards in the league as far as defense. But my biggest issue with what I've seen from Milwaukee is not their ability to score or anything like that. It's the fact that their bench really can't defend. Their bench is decent, especially when you look at it on paper, or if you look at how they play. They're very, very, very good on offense. You got DJ Augustine, Bobby Portis, who has solidified himself as the 6th man on that team, Torrey Craig, Brian Forbes, and Pat Connaughton. Very good players on offense. Pat, not so much recently. He hasn't really done much throughout the season. When I look back, like, he hasn't really given shit on offense. Like, nothing. But he's somebody I still think is pretty decent on defense, and he's a high IQ player. So I think still they can improve that bench. And again, my issue isn't the fact that the bench can't play or they can't score, the team can't score, can't play. It's, say if Milwaukee were to come out the East, right? Because I don't think they have to worry about a team like Brooklyn or Philly's bench, because Philly has one of the worst benches in the league as far as output. Brooklyn's bench doesn't exist. So you don't have to worry there. My issue is if you come out the East and you have to play a team like the Clippers, the Lakers, or the Jazz, those are the top 3 teams out West, and they have the top 5 benches in the league. So how can a bench that can't defend go out and defend the best benches in the league and expect to win a finals? You know what I'm saying? So I don't think the Bucks really have a chance, even if they make it out the East, because their bench just can't defend. So if they were to ask somebody, like I was saying early in the podcast, if they ask somebody like Andre Drummond, that'd be great for them, because you move Brook Lopez to the bench, that improves your defense slightly. But I've also heard that they've been interested in adding PJ Tucker from Houston. He's been a very popular name during these, as we get closer to the trade deadline. He's this year's hot commodity. I think last year was like Trevor Ariza, and you know how it goes every year. It's that one hot player, that one good 2-way player that teams really want. I think PJ Tucker is another hot name. He could even go to Miami. I forgot to mention when we were talking about Miami, PJ Tucker would be great on Miami, seeing that they lost Jay Crowder and haven't really been able to find a replacement for him. But if Milwaukee were to add Andre Drummond or PJ Tucker, that would definitely improve their rotations and their bench defense, because you could put PJ on the bench. That's your best defender off the bench, obviously. Or if you grab Andre Drummond, again, move Brook Lopez to the bench, and you got a pretty decent big coming off the bench as far as defense. So I think that's Milwaukee's biggest problem. They're a very good team. Giannis is still playing like an MVP. I don't know if he'll get it this year. I think again, with the MVP conversation, that still is like Joel, I think number 1, KD, LeBron, Dame is up there. Then probably Giannis. But again, I think if they improve that bench as far as the defense goes, they'll be a much better team. But until they do that, I don't have faith in them coming out of the East, even though, again, Brooklyn and Philly's bench aren't that great. I just don't see them coming out and beating the Lakers, the Clippers, or the Jazz. No matter how you want to look at it, starters versus starters or bench versus bench, no matter how you look at it, I just don't see Milwaukee being a real threat to win the championship. But to each his own. Again, if y'all have a thought on that, a comment on that as far as what you've seen from Milwaukee and what you anticipate from them as the season goes on, let me know. I want to have a conversation about it. I want to see how people feel about that, because I've had my doubts about Milwaukee all season, and it's always been the bench for me. Like, since the start of the season, my biggest concerns and questions about Milwaukee was their bench, and it's always been the defense for me. They have guys that can score. I've been a big fan of DJ Augustine for a long time, since he was a Bobcat. I've been, damn, I was about to say his name wrong, but Bobby Portis was good in Chicago. I think he's even better here in Milwaukee. Again, he's proven to be their sixth man. Torrey Craig was very good in Denver. Still a very tough player. Brian Forbes, I really liked him in San Antonio. He's still a very good player. Pat Connaughton, I think he was good prior to this year. He's kind of fallen off. And yeah, I just, all of them, except Bobby Portis, all of them just isn't that consistent on the defensive end for me. That's my problem. So we'll see if they make any moves to improve their bench's defense, grabbing somebody like PJ Tucker or Andre Drummond, or I don't know. Harrison Barnes is another name that I've seen come up a lot in free agency, or the whole trade deadline, I think I should say. I don't know if he's somebody that's on Milwaukee's radar, but he should be. I don't know what they would have to give up to get somebody like him. Again, I've heard Sacramento it's been possible that him and Sacramento may go separate ways. So we'll see. Moving right along into the next topic, my favorite games from the past week. I do want to cover a few, just ever so slightly, ever so briefly. A few games that I did catch throughout the past week that I do want to just share. Like, you know, I enjoy seeing those games. Games like Chicago versus Detroit, that was a pretty damn good game. The only reason why I had went and watched that game is I saw the clip of Josh Jackson and Zach LaVine getting into it. So I wanted to see what happened during that game from start to finish. Like, did that build up or whatnot? But it was a good game. Like, I when I went to go watch the game itself, I really enjoyed what I saw, especially from Chicago in that third quarter. I think that's what really pissed Josh Jackson off and whatnot, because they really locked them up in the third quarter. They outscored Detroit 27-12 in the third, and Zach had 15 under 27. They gave up 35 in the first quarter and 26 in the second. So to see them come back in the third quarter and play great defense like that, I enjoyed it. Jeremy Grant had a great first and fourth quarter. He didn't play too well throughout the second and third. I really throughout not just that game but the entire season, I really like Patrick Williams and how he's played for Chicago. They didn't have Laurie or Otto Porter. I think they'll both be back soon, from what I just recently read this morning. I don't know if they'll be back before the All-Star break, but I heard it's possible that they may be back before the All-Star break. And Detroit didn't have Killian Hayes, Jahlil Okafor, or Frank Jackson, but still a very good game to me from just top to bottom from Zach LaVine and Chicago. Despite having a pretty tough going in the first half on defense, they came back and closed it out in the second half and really made a statement in that third quarter with the defense they played. Brooklyn Nets and the Phoenix Suns, that was also another very good game that's happened in the past week, if I'm not mistaken, or was that a weekend ago? Tyler Johnson, I feel like he made a huge difference in that game. That third quarter, that comeback, or I should say the third quarter performance that he had made that comeback possible. Like, he came out knocking shit down, and then James Harden just took over in the fourth quarter. And I do want to give Phoenix a lot of credit for that first half. They were looking unstoppable in the first half, and they've been looking good even after that game. Like, I think they're on a win streak, if I'm not mistaken, but really good first half from them. They just fell apart in the second half defensively, and just let Tyler Johnson get hot. Landry Shamet came through and made great plays in the third quarter, and James Harden again, he just took that fourth quarter, put the team on his back, and took it home. So A few other games. The Celtics versus the Nuggets was a pretty good game. That's the most I'm going to talk about the Celtics probably today, but not even because the fact that the Celtics won despite Jokic going off. I really enjoyed seeing how Nikola performed. Like, he was not missing shit. I think at one point I remember he was like 13 for 17, like getting everything he wanted, like shooting over people, getting offensive boards and going back up, and it was like almost guaranteed it was a bucket. So I think that's a game that we should have lost, just seeing how we couldn't stop him. We somehow won that game. I know Michael Porter was off. He couldn't hit shit. Jamal Murray didn't really do too much. And then outside of, if you don't get much from those two guys outside of Nikola, you got a good chance of beating Denver, to be honest. Some other games that I really enjoyed, Brooklyn Nets and the Clippers game this past weekend. I think that last call was bullshit on Kawhi. Like, Kawhi did not extend his arm out. James Harden flopped and got an offensive foul. And as a result of that, I think that's bullshit. But give Brooklyn credit. That's another win for them. They've gone on the road and beat a lot of tough teams, including Phoenix, the Lakers, and the Clippers. They're on a roll right now, and I think that should not go unnoticed. I know I've slept on them as far as like their defense, so I still think can be a problem. But seeing how much they can score, and mind you, they did this without KD, so seeing how many points they give up, they've got, and this has been a known thing, they get stops when they need it, and they can score whenever. So I think that's what makes Brooklyn even scary, and the fact that we've been able to see them learn how to play together, and it's really starting to show. My opinion on Brooklyn coming out of the East is kind of shifted too. Like, I still think it's gonna come down to Brooklyn and Phoenix or Philly, but Brooklyn, shit, man, I don't know. I don't want to go out on a limb right now and say they're gonna win the East, because Philly, I still got to give them a lot of respect. They've been balling this year, and Joel specifically. We'll see. That's all I'm gonna say. Last game on my list, the Wizards and the Lakers game was pretty damn good from yesterday, mostly because of just how Westbrook and Bradley Beal play. I think what's weird to me is they play really, really well together against like those really good teams. Like, did it against Brooklyn, did it against Boston, done it against the Lakers, and the list goes on. Like, they both come out and just put on a fucking show. Like, I think Westbrook had he had a triple-double. I don't know. I know he had at least a double-double. I know that. And then Brad, he had put up at least 30. I can't remember the exact box scores for that game, but the Lakers just fell apart. Like, they had a 17-point lead, if I'm not mistaken. Third quarter, they just started chipping away that lead and got it closer. And then in the fourth quarter, it was a close game all the way until the end. And then they just got stops down the stretch when it mattered. I think not only should we give Westbrook and Brad a lot of credit, but Hachimura, the defense he played on LeBron, especially in the last few minutes in the fourth, I think made a big difference. He made it tough on LeBron. They had to fish for those switches to get Denny Avia on him to give him a better chance. And even still, Brown was making some pretty good plays out of with Denny on him. He didn't even look to score every time, but whenever Hachimura was on him, I feel like he made it really, really tough for LeBron. Like, LeBron had to really settle for some tough ass shots. Granted, LeBron can make them shits, but still, I can live with that. If I'm Hachimura, I can live with a tough shot. You just not getting nothing open on me. It was one play he did kind of lose him, like at the baseline, kind of lost him. I think it was like in the last minute of the game, last like few possessions, like they got an offensive board and Brian got it back, and he was in that left corner and kind of lost Hachimura on the baseline, but didn't do anything with that. Like, bruh, I'm like, you could have put y'all in a better position off of that, like drove or something. Like, I don't know. I think they just fell apart. They couldn't stop Westbrook and Bill when they got hot, and they made it tough on Bron. And then if you make it tough on Bron without AD, that team is very easy to. I won't say very easy. Let me take that back. That's a beatable team. If you make it tough for LeBron and you already don't have Anthony Davis, you don't have Dennis Schroeder, that's a beatable team. And of course, the Wizards pulled that out in OT. That was a good ass game. I watched it again this morning when I got up. I had watched it after the game because I had missed it during the original broadcast, and then I watched it again this morning just to see how specifically how that third quarter went, and then to see the last 2 minutes of the fourth, just to see how they really fucked up. But good game overall. Let me know what y'all think as far as your favorite games from the past week. Definitely want to talk about that. But moving right along into the next and final topic of today's episode, All-Star Weekend, and who I think should be the West and East reserves, who I think should be in the three-point contest, the dunk contest, and the skills challenge. Got a few players that I mentioned in those last three, but I'm really doing this to see who y'all think should be in it as well, and kind of compare and contrast, like who do I think versus who y'all think. Have that conversation. But I'll go ahead and start with the West reserves. I think Damian Lillard, he should have been a starter over Luka, if we're being honest, and Luka even said so himself, that Dame should be starting over him, and that kind of reminded me of the whole Macklemore and Kendrick Lamar situation. Even somebody tweeted that shit. That when I seen the tweet, I'm like, okay, maybe I knew I wasn't tripping. Like, that's exactly what it reminded me of when Macklemore said Kendrick should have won that Grammy over him or whatever. It seems like the kind of same shit, but I think Damian Lillard should, no question, should be a reserve. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Paul George, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis. I don't think he's playing, actually. I think he'll be out for the next month. Zion Williamson definitely should be up there. I don't know who I would replace with Anthony Davis if he's hurt. I have to think about that one. But again, my list, I'll run that down one more time. Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Paul George, Devin Booker, Zion Williamson, and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, again, he's hurt. We know that. But still, even if he wasn't, I think he should be an all-star. For the East, I think Jaylen Brown, no question. Jaylen Brown and James Harden are automatic. Zach LaVine, too. He's automatic. Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum. Part of me don't want Jason Tatum because he ain't been doing shit. Or I ain't gonna say he ain't been doing shit. Boy, that nigga's been inefficient. Boy. Fred VanVleet, I would love to see him as an all-star. And Jeremy Grant, I think he should be an all-star. Those two, Fred and Jeremy, I think are sleepers. I don't think that they should not be. How do I want to put this? I think they deserve it. I'm going to just put it like that. I think they deserve to be all-stars with the way they played. Toronto started off struggling, but now they're like better than Boston. Like, I think they're like 4th or 5th in the East now. They used to be like 14th, 13th or some shit. Like, so, and a lot of credit goes to Fred VanVleet. So for that reason, I think he should be an all-star despite the fact that Detroit is not playing well as a team. Jeremy Grant has been playing tremendous all year. He might end up being like how Jaylen Brown was last year. He might get snubbed just because of the situation. Like, there's a lot of players that could go ahead of you. Your team's not doing good. That's not what Jaylen Brown went through last year. It was more so just a lot of players that could go ahead of him. But if he doesn't win it this year, and he should definitely make it next year. That's how I feel. Again, we can't really predict next year, but I'm sure he'll be playing like this next year too. So Jeremy Grant definitely should be a reserve. I don't know who y'all think should be a West or East reserve, but again, let me know what y'all think. I want to have that conversation. Definitely want to talk about it. But as far as the three-point contest, I definitely want to see Duncan Robinson in there, Jordan Clarkson, my sixth man of the year, and Joe Harris. That's the only three I picked. Of course, there's going to be more, but those are the only few that I picked. Again, Duncan Robinson, Jordan Clarkson, Joe Harris. Dunk contest, Anthony Edwards and Miles Bridges are two that I would love to see there. Zion Williamson is somebody I would love to see do it. Donovan Mitchell, just to name a few. Skills challenge, I can only think of two for this one. Luka and LaMelo, I would love to see them do it. I wouldn't mind seeing Damian in it. I don't know. The skills challenge, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know. I'll just leave it at Luka, LaMelo, and Dame. So that's who I think as far as my All-Star Weekend prediction. Now, if it was if three-point contest did include my three, Duncan, Jordan, Joe, I think Duncan can win that shit, no question. Dunk contest, I have to give it to probably out of my two, I probably have to give it to Miles, and then for the skills challenge, I'm giving it to LaMelo. That's if my picks were to get into it. Of course, there's probably gonna be more players involved, more than just the ones I picked, or as far as the total number of players. I think dunk contest or three-point contest, I think is like 6. Dunk contest might be like 4. I can't remember as far as total number of players, but that's who I think should be in it. Let me know who y'all think should be in it. I'll run down my list one last time before we close out today. West reserves: Damian Lillard, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson. East reserves: Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, Fred VanVleet, and Jeremy Grant. My 3-point contest picks: Duncan Robinson, Jordan Clarkson, Joe Harris. Dunk contest: Anthony Edwards, Miles Bridges, Zion Williamson, Donovan Mitchell. Skills challenge: Luka Doncic, LaMelo Ball, again, Damian Lillard. Those are my picks for who I think should be included in All-Star Weekend as far as the rest of the events. But again, let me know who y'all think should be in it. Let me know if I left out anybody that y'all think should definitely be on the list. We'll talk about it. Streaming tonight on Twitch, probably going live around 9 to 10 p.m. Definitely come check us out. Thank you, brother. Also look out for the YouTube version of the podcast. If it's not out today, it should be out tomorrow. And then again, come check us out on Twitch tonight. We'll be able to discuss some of the things we talked about from the podcast. We'll probably be playing Modern Warfare. I just got that for PC. So I'm definitely going to be playing a lot of that more now that I've got it on my PC. GTA, probably going to be back on that. That's probably probably all these 2 games we play on stream tonight. And then again, we'll talk about the podcast, which I felt about what we talked about today. Next week's episode 5, will be live on Tuesday, no longer coming out on Mondays. Like I said at the start of the podcast, check us out. Project Recap on IG, the Recap Project on Twitter, CampIslandStudios.com, the official website, or you can come check me out on YouTube. Just look up CJ McNeil, the Project Recap. I'm sure you'll find me. And stick around, stay tuned. Also, my personal Twitter, of course, thank you, Siege. Personal IG, thank you, Siege. Come holler at me about anything we talked about today. As always, it's your boy TY, and I'm signing out. Peace.
What you gonna do, brother?